Hello, my name is Dorin Ellen Bel-Dotan in Sfat in Israel. And today I'd like to talk about what I call theology for grown-ups. I'd like to talk today about our two most powerful abilities and suggest how they might be used to our better advantage, our common better advantage. I want to talk today about thoughts and about emotions. Thoughts and emotions are not meant to be reactive. The proper use of thoughts and emotions are not only proactive, they are creative. The creation issues from them. When we use our thoughts and our emotions correctly, we are intentionally creating the world in our own image and in accordance with our highest will. We have been taught to use our thoughts and emotions in a reactive kind of a way because we are being formed. The power of our emotions and the power of our thoughts are being used by others to their own purposes. And quite honestly, we are complicit in that. We have forgotten what thoughts and emotions are really supposed to be and what the experience of having them is supposed to be. And so our slavery has become habitual, has become reflexive. Herein, please God, I want to return our power to us so that we can move from a condition of slavery to a condition of freedom and begin to create the worlds that we really want to live in and that we really want our progeny to live in. Let's talk about thought first. The Hebrew word for thought is machsheva. The value of the word machsheva is 355. I'm going to be writing the letters here so that people can see these chilufim. If all of these letters and numbers are starting to remind you of the matrix, then you're understanding what's going on correctly. I'm going to teach you how to hack the matrix. Our thoughts, machsheva, thought, can be thought of in a number of different ways. First of all, moach is brain. That's the first part of the word machsheva. It is also kochav, which is star. It is also Hashem has put together, Havaya Yachad. It is also Yovel, which is Jubilee. That's the first part of the word machsheva. And then Shava is returns. So machsheva becomes the star returns, or Havaya once again puts together. 355 is also the value of the word shana, which is year, and again that relates to stars. And it is also the name Paro, Pharaoh. And from that we learn that if we are not in control of our thoughts, we come under the worst kind of slavery. That is what being in Mitzrayim, in Egypt is. Mitzrayim literally means narrow straits. And if we don't know how to use our minds correctly, we become enslaved to narrow straits. So we understand from that we must be the masters of our thought. We cannot have our thoughts being directed by hack writers who are getting a penny a word, who have been trained by people who were trained in one of George Soros's think tanks. We cannot have our thoughts directed by the mass media. Our thoughts have to be ours. We have to be the masters of our thoughts. Thoughts in the plural is machshevot. The value of machshevot is 756, which is the name of the letter Nun, and that should remind you of Yoshua bin Nun. It is also every world, kol olam. Olam is world. Ilum is, it's both hidden and it is both absorbed in a world, and that should start to sound like Illuminati to you. I'm going to teach you how to be real Illuminati, not fake Illuminati. Machshevot, moach, as I said, is Yovel, which is Jubilee. And then we have Shvut, which is returning, and Shabbat, and the Sabbath, the Jubilee and the Sabbath. We experience the Jubilee and the Sabbath when our thoughts are under our control. The word in Hebrew for emotion, emotion, that which puts things in motion, is regesh. The value of the word regesh is equal to brosh, which means in my head, ba'osher, which means with happiness. All of our emotions are meant to be with happiness. My husband is smiling in the background. I'm getting his imprimatur of you know, his mark of his stamp of approval. The most important of all of the emotions is compassion, which in Hebrew is rachamim. It is terribly, terribly important that we be in control of our compassion, that our compassion be in accordance with our will for the world, that it be working together with our brains, and that it not be elicited by the mass media or by people who are working with some kind of a Photoshop type of a program to make pictures that bend our emotions all out of shape, and not to be elicited by people who are green screen experts. We cannot allow our emotions to be milked and jerked. We have to be in control of our emotions. Why is rachamim, compassion, so very high? Well, obviously we understand the power of compassion, but I want to explain how this works in creation. The root racham is compassion, and it's womb. It is also womb. It is also the value of the name Avraham, Abraham, which is the value of bara Adam, creates man. Man is created out of our compassion, and the way in which we feel compassion will determine what human beings are going to be like. The same letters of rechem and racham, compassion, and wombs, if they're switched around a little bit, they become chomer, which is material. The quality of our compassion will determine the quality and the nature and the types of interactions of the material world. We're living in a material world now which is telling us that our compassion is not on a very high level. If it were, we would not be living in a world where there's so much plastic, artificial sweeteners, artificial colors, artificial tastes. All of these things are telling us that our compassion is not really real. So rachamim, which is compassion, is also rechamim, which is wombs. The same letters become chomerim, different kinds of material, and it even becomes macharim, which is our tomorrows. The word Torah in Hebrew, we learn Torah. That is the real matrix. Those are the letters and the numbers that everything are really being generated from. It's not a supercomputer on Sirius or in Andromeda. It's right here on Earth. Torah is equal in value to 611, which is also equal to at hara. You are pregnant. Now we're going to start to understand the teachings in Christianity about the mother and the father and the son and all being one and the same. We're going to learn it correctly. It is also equal to et atzmi, which means with myself. You are pregnant with my very self. Et atzmi is with my very self. We are always in a state of God being pregnant with itself, and the child which is born is identical with God. Those are the worlds that we live in. That is what is actually being generated by our consciousness all the time. The time to have compassion is not when we have not been compassionate, when we were incubating the worlds in our brains and in our hearts, and then they're, God forbid, born deformed or stillborn, and then we feel compassion. What would we say about a woman who, during her pregnancy, drank and took dangerous drugs and engaged in all kinds of self-destructive and destructive activities, and then when the baby is born deformed, she feels sorry for it? We would say, and rightfully so, this is not the time, darling, to express compassion. Where were you when this baby was incubating? Well, it is exactly the same thing with us in the worlds that we are continuously generating. We are always in a state of pregnant with the world, giving birth to the world, and living, raising the world that we have given birth to. This is all happening concomitantly. So it is very important to have compassion before the world that we want to be compassionate with is born. That is to say, we always have to be in a state of compassion. Rather than looking at the world and seeing a mess and saying, how can I fix this willy-nilly? Somebody very, very wise said, for 1,000 people who are hacking away at the branches, only one is going for the root. I want you to go for the root. I want you to go down to the root of creation, which is your mind and your heart. Your thoughts and your feelings are what are generating this world. So we have to think like God does, and we have to feel like God does. And our intentions always have to be, may it be my will that the world that is being born should be a beautiful world and a happy world and a healthy world, that it should be a world of abundance, that it should be a world of fulfillment, that it should be a world of opportunity. These must always be our thoughts, continuously, all the time, to constantly be meditating those thoughts. Because the time to have compassion on a world is before it's born. After it's born de facto, It is born with all kinds of conditions that are supporting it that make the fixing of it very, very difficult. What we can do, however, is we can get to a level of intentions that are so high that we are able to control time, and this is what I was talking about, the movements of the stars with our minds, but we have to get there first. We have to attain that level of self-control. When we get to that level, we can actually change things that have happened in time, reinterpret them, edit them, and make them different. But right now, our first order of business is learning how to get our minds under control, our emotions under control, and not have them milked and elicited by interests that are not in our interests. And my suggestion to everyone is the first thing to do is take the TV and throw it out. Thank you for listening.